On this upcoming attractions, we got trailers for King of Staten Island and Space Force, plus a review for Mortal Kombat Legends Scorpion Revenge. Also the MDF Game. What is your favourite Jackie Chan performance? All this and a bunch more other stuff on this episode of Midnight Double Feature. Zohev, how are we doing?
I'm good, dude. What's happening? What have you been up to? Talk to me.
I've been working from home with the Rona. We're doing this a little bit earlier because I'm going to be in Dubbo for the most of next week. So I'm going to be remote working from home. So I'll be working even more remotely. And just recently I guested on another podcast, the Jai Menzies Experience. It's a brand new podcast. I'm episode 4. Be sure to check it out. I talk about my film projects and life and dealing with depression. We get really deep on that subject at one point. And then just also like really a lot of stuff about life and just like career goals and things like that. We went all over the place that episode. It was a really fun podcast. So definitely check that out. The Jai Menzies Experience. What have you been up to?
Nice, man. Not much. I mean, there's not much we can do. I've been watching some TV. Not as much as TV as I'd like to be. I've just been really, really busy. Been working inside. Been working out. Just going for bike rides and shit. It's funny. It's funny that you kind of plugged a podcast there because I was going to plug another podcast as well.
Oh.
It's not nearly as personal to me, but I was listening to it today. It's called Fake Doctors, Real Friends with Zach and Donald.
I've been meaning to check that out. Is it good?
Yeah. Oh, dude, it's amazing. That's the Scrubs podcast. So
yeah.
Zach Braff and Donald Faison, they are doing a rewatch of the show and releasing episodes as they go.
Did they form this during COVID?
Yes,
lockdown?
They did. Yeah,
it's amazing that so many of these things are happening because a very similar one, a community one called The Darkest Timeline, starring Joel McHale and Ken Jeong, was also started, I think, almost around the same time as that podcast. Like, what are the chances?
It's really good, man. Like it feels very authentic. I love it. Like the humor is fantastic. It's actually a weird comparison, not a weird comparison, but in contrast to The Office Ladies, which is The Office's version of this, where you got Angela Kinsey and goddamn, why am I forgetting Pam's name? Like that show is that's not a good show. I'm sorry, guys. I don't like it. I love The Office, as you guys know, but I don't really dig that podcast. It doesn't feel genuine. Like it just, I don't know. But check out that. Check out Fake Doctors, Real Friends. It's really fantastic. That's really what I've been listening to, and just been catching up on the back catalog of Hey Do You Remember's Patreon podcast. We kind of went off a deep end here, just plugging podcasts right at the start of our podcast.
Man, if you get me started, I will talk about all the video games I've been playing during lockdown, which has been so much we could do an entire podcast episode about it, which actually might be a pretty good idea if you're down sometime. We could do a special presentation or something.
You know what? We actually have been meaning to do a video game episode for, I cannot even tell you how long.
I honestly, I've been on lockdown for 7 weeks now. In 7 weeks, I think I've done maybe 4 video game campaigns, from start to finish already.
Nice.
I don't usually play that often, so it's a problem.
That's where Call of Duty just consumes my life. I could have gone through probably as many campaigns as you have, and I actually bought Doom Eternal, and I just haven't finished it because I keep going back to Call of Duty multiplayer. But
damn, yeah, I was never good at first-person shooters. I'm the worst. Speaking of things you should shoot, why don't you shoot yourself over to our social media pages?
Oh boy,
that was a reach. While I shoot myself over to a Segway class to learn how to do better Segways.
While I shoot myself in the head.
I don't normally plug them. Let me give it a try. You can find Midnight Double Feature on Facebook and Instagram. Also, if you want to get to know us a bit better, hang out with us, see some memes, why don't you join the After Party? It's our Facebook community group, free of charge. Come there, hang out, and partake in the MDF Game. What's the MDF Game? Well, today it is what is your favorite Jackie Chan performance? Also, be sure if you like us, Give us a 5-star review on iTunes. If you don't like us, let us know in the comment section where we can ignore it. And is there any other things I should
while
plug?
you're talking about that, there's no really other plug. There's Twitter, which is at MDF Pod, but also if you're talking about reviews, we actually just finished a competition. We might run another one like this in the future. We don't know yet, but congratulations to Ken Tomlin. Your pick won. Essentially, what everyone was asked to do was rate and review us on iTunes, screenshot their review, and send it to midnightdoublefeature@gmail.com. And they can go in the running to win their very own feature presentation episode. Basically, they choose a movie, Colin and I cover it, maybe Danny, maybe Matt, I don't know. Depends on availability, depends on whether they're interested. Ken Tomlin suggested... Oh, by the way, Ken Tomlin, thank you so much for your review. Really, really sweet. And also all of the reviews that everyone input. We got some really, really good reviews. And I'm hoping that you guys didn't vote 5 stars because you wanted us to pick your movie, because it was totally random. But Ken Tomlin chose the John Carpenter's The Prince of Darkness. And when I told Colin this, I was like, Colin, a John Carpenter movie has won the competition. Everyone's going to think that we chose, specifically the John Carpenter one because we know how much you love John Carpenter. But yeah, he loved it. He loved the choice. So yeah, I am going to tip my hand and say I've never seen that movie, but I am excited to see it because I really want more John Carpenter movies under my belt. So there you go. Thanks, Ken. Really appreciate it.
I haven't seen it either. I would have to do it. Oh, real quick, we normally do this at the start of the episode. I forgot to mention it. We unfortunately have some sad RIP
Why
news.
do we do this at the start of the episodes?
It does start on a downer, but I feel like there's some way we've got to incorporate these type of news into the podcast. It's worth mentioning, but it is a downer. But oh man, so we got 2 this week. The first one is, I'm just trying to pull up his name. I know him as Ted from Scrubs, but
so
others know him
Sam
as
Lloyd.
Sam Lloyd. That's it. I was going to call him Samuel. But still, yeah. Most known for Ted from Scrubs and Ted from Cougar Town. For those who don't know, that character moved on to another show. It's another show by Bill Lawrence. They also had a Scrubs reunion episode, which was pretty cool. But also just really quick, because Colin shared this with me just the other day. The writer of Child's Play 1 and I think 2 as well, John Lafayette. So RIP. What some fans don't know is in the vault, we actually recently did a feature presentation for Child's Play 2. So one day when we have nothing for you in 1 week, we will throw that out. And that's how
don't hold your breath.
Made.
That might come out in like a few years. So don't hold your breath.
It could be in 2025. It could be next week. Who knows? Yeah, but I think that's enough for housekeeping for today. Let's get into some news, shall we?
Let's get into it.
Woo! Let's kick it off with a trailer that I literally just watched about 30 seconds ago. King of Staten Island, a new Judd Apatow film starring Pete Davidson, who's on his massive rise to fame lately. Zoheb, what are your thoughts on this trailer?
Honestly, okay, so off air you were like, it didn't really look like how I expected it to. This looked exactly how I expected it to. Judd Apatow, he's an interesting director because the movies that he produces, they're more often kind of like screwball comedies. They're usually aimed towards teenagers. They're very crass. The humor is very the humor is very full on. But the movies that he directs, right, like Knocked Up, like Funny People, they're funny, but at the same time they are very poignant. Like they're very thoughtful. And this movie looks exactly like that. Like this movie kind of like, I can tell it's going to be funny, but at the same time, I can tell it's going to be more of a drama, if anything. Trainwreck was very much like that as well. The movie that he directed a couple years ago. So it's interesting to look at Judd Apatow as a director. And I think, King of Staten Island, it looks great. It looks like a feel good time. I was always going to watch this. Is this going straight to streaming or is this going to cinemas?
From my understanding, so don't quote me on this, but I believe this was originally intended for cinemas, but since COVID happened, they decided instead to put it direct to VOD. So it's not even getting in. So I think the original plan was to have a limited run anyways, but I'm probably wrong on that because I imagine this film, it stars Pete Davidson, who seems to get more famous every week for some reason. And I believe there's a minor role for Machine Gun Kelly in this. Like, I keep hearing him talk about it. And I think there's, fucking Bill Burr is in this as well. Like,
oh, he looks so good.
Yeah, like a lot of these names, it's interesting. Like, they're not like names you hear. Like, anyone in comedy knows these names. Yeah, they're not A-listers, but like they're A-listers to certain demographics, I would say. Like Bill Burr. Bill Burr's also, he's very much like Judd Apatow. You know him for these really outrageous comedy stuff, except he's in stand-up. But when you see him do roles, Bill Burr mostly does more drama, serious stuff. Like Breaking Bad, The Mandalorian, and I'm sure there's a few others I'm thinking. You don't really see him do many crazy out there unless you count like voicing F is for Family or something, But
I'd say the biggest name in this movie is Steve Buscemi.
Oh yeah, and like Steve Buscemi's still like, it's not like he's like he was a bigger name back in the day.
Yeah, to a lot of people, he's that guy.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what you brought up was a really good point because I keep forgetting this. You're right. Most of his films are very grounded and more like they're almost like coming of age, but they're not exactly. But they're often about like people like I don't know, maybe in their 30s, just trying to find their way in life, and it's more about like the story, the heart, the message behind it, and the comedy is kind of like an extra thing. Well, normally he produces more off the wall, out there sort of comedies, and I keep forgetting that. And so I thought this would be a bit more out there and stuff. And so I'm seeing this trailer, and then they say, "Oh, from producer of Knocked Up and Trainwreck." I'm like, oh yeah, like you're right. And so it's just not what I expected, but it looks great. It looks very Judd Apatow, and I think it's going to be good, man. I'm keen for it.
I'm definitely keen for it.
Excuse me. Yeah, I'm really interested to see.
Rest in peace, headphone listeners.
I apologize. But I'm really interested, in particular, in where Pete Davidson's career goes to from here, because he kind of accidentally stumbled into fame where he was kind of like not doing great on Saturday Night Live. He wasn't getting a lot of sketches. Then out of nowhere, he started dating Ariana Grande because she was like a guest on the show once. That made him put in all these headlines. He started getting a bit more air time on Saturday Night Live, mostly doing like the reports. And then since then, he started popping up in things like, he became great friends with Machine Gun Kelly. He's appeared in some music videos here and there. His stand-up is a very acquired taste, I would say. Like, I think he's funny, but I'm not dying laughing. Honestly, he's one of the few actors I've seen where I'm like, oh, your best stuff is in Saturday Night Live. Like, most people say the opposite, I would say. But he's got such a unique, like, vibe to him and a unique, like, flavor. It's kind of like, how do you capture that and use that? And I think this film may play a lot to his strengths. So but I don't, when I think of like Pete Davidson, I don't think an amazing actor, but I think this is his chance to like really prove me wrong and prove other people wrong. Cause I feel like this type of film would really play to his strengths. So I'm really interested in seeing how this goes.
Nice. Me too.
Let's move on to another trailer. We talked about this in the last episode, Space Force. Oh boy. This is a new TV show coming to Netflix. I'm really trying to cut out my arms. I apologize. Zoheb, what do you think of Space Force?
It looks okay. I don't know. I think this is a tough show to market, if anything. I really don't know how you would market a show like The Office, like, yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
It's not an amazing trailer, I would say. I was a bit disappointed watching it, but I think you're right. It might be hard to market because you got to spend so much time introducing the concept, right? Because it's not exactly like, it's not simple like, oh, it's people in an office. It's you have to explain what is a Space Force. So there's not a lot of room for jokes. So
I think, yeah, exactly. And I think it kind of gets bogged down in that. Like, I mean, it looks fine. I mean, I didn't really know what I was expecting, to be honest. The biggest thing that actually surprised me when I saw this trailer was when I did some more research, and I found out that Greg Daniels actually launched another show this month called Upload.
Oh, okay, I didn't hear that.
And I've heard it's great. It's sitting at 83% on Rotten Tomatoes. The premise is a man is able to choose his own afterlife after his untimely death, and it's actually a dark comedy. So
What's it
I
on?
don't
Do you
know.
know?
It's on Amazon Prime Video. So I don't really
Hey.
know how he's kind of managing between Space Force and Upload, but yeah, there you go. Good on him. Like
Mm.
honestly, Space Force is something that I'll watch anyway because it's coming to Netflix. It's going to be there, so
Yeah.
I'm still obviously going to see it. And I love me some Steve Carell, and I love the supporting cast, so I'll still see it. I just think it's it's a trailer I watched once, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, and that's it. Like I didn't really think about it.
This has been one of my more anticipated TV shows of 2020. And oh man, that trailer! I was like waiting for that trailer because I saw a thing and it's like, oh, we're posting it tomorrow because it's like I'm in Australia, it's America. I don't know when tomorrow is, so I kept going back to the Facebook page. Excuse me, just to check it. I kept checking it, and then I see the trailer. I'm like, oh, that's it. Like it seems very safe. Like I know it's on Netflix, but it feels like it's from NBC or CBS. Like I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, it's a lot better than that, but. Again, it's not like they had a lot of jokes in that trailer, I think, because they had to spend so much time setting it up. So, see how that goes. Let's move on. We got a little bit of TV news. Let's get into that real quick. This week, for those who didn't see it, speaking of The Office, very similar type show, Parks and Recreation had a reunion special. Everybody came back, including some guest stars, including how much I love Jason Mantzoukas. He's in it for like 30 seconds, which is amazing to me. This was a COVID-19 special episode.
Is this like via like a webcam?
Yeah, it's kind of like the Tiger King and I in a way.
Okay. All right.
The storyline is, and it kind of feels a little bit at times like a PSA rather than a comedy show. It's got a very, very loose storyline where it's kind of like Leslie is calling around the other people and all her friends to check in on them to make sure they're doing good. They have what they call like a phone tree. So you call this person, you have to call this person. And so all these stars, many of which have gone on to do much bigger things, they've pretty much filmed something on what's probably like some sort of special version of Zoom or something. And and they filmed that. But it's amazing. Like Chris Pratt is in it for quite a bit and he fully commits to the role. He's back in as Andy and Johnny Karate. And Burt Macklin, FBI. It's great to see all those characters back. The best joke though came from like this character who I think's only in like 3 episodes. I forget his name, but he's like a dentist who's also like a politician. And there's some joke about how he can do at-home dentistry, self-dentistry by giving you the tools.
Are you talking about John Ralphio's father?
Is that no? You're definitely not him.
Okay.
It's another guy, and he's like, "Oh, you can do your own dentistry stuff." It's definitely not Fonz.
Okay, get back on track. Yeah.
Anyways, John Ralphio is the highlight probably of this episode, though. Here's an amazing scene. It's very short, very amazing. But yeah, and at the end it ends on they all sing 5,000 Candles in the Wind to celebrate little Sebastian. It's fine. Like it's cool. We got some content. It's cool that we got these people back together. But, like, don't expect to be laughing your ass off. At the end of the day, it's a glorified Zoom call. But that's my favorite thing, though, about COVID, is that we do get in all these reunions. We just heard that Community is going to do a table read.
Favorite thing about COVID.
Yeah. Dude, I saw, there was a Big Mouth table read. I saw a watch along with the Chris Gethard show. Community is going to do a table read. So much, like, stuff is popping in and out. And then we got this, so... At least there was something out of lockdown. Speaking of TV shows, though, you've been watching The Last Dance. What do you think of that, bro?
I have been watching The Last Dance. Granted, at the time of this recording, there are a total of 5 episodes out. 6. I've only seen 3.
I'm hearing good things, though.
Dude, it is... It might be... Okay, so... Look, it's about basketball. It's about the NBA. I am not a big NBA person. Obviously I know how fucking basketball is played, but I don't really delve into the NBA at all. Like I know the big stars, like I know the big players. I know LeBron. I know, sadly, I know about Kobe. I obviously know who the greatest of all time is, and that is Michael Jordan. And this documentary just was sold to me as the Chernobyl of 2020. And when I hear, quote, the Chernobyl of 2020, I'm like, okay, you know what? That is a big quote. I'm just going to check this out. This blew me away, dude. This documentary is about the 1997/1998 Chicago Bulls season. And it kind of like it focuses on three main sort of players. It focuses on Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Dennis Rodman. And then of course it focuses on their coach as well, Phil Jackson. But then there's also kind of like the corporate bad guy, Jerry Krause in the background, who's kind of like hovering, and like he, like, out of jealousy, he kind of like split them up and like told them that this is going to be your coach's last year, blah blah blah. There's actually so much drama and storytelling in this documentary series, and it's so well done. I give total props to Michael Tolan, who Jason Hare, who actually show ran this. Yeah, it's great, man. Like I don't really know how else to put it. Like if you're not into basketball, if you're not into sporting, you can still get into it. They tell you a lot. Because I can tell you, I mean, I'm sure, Matt, you know Michael Jordan, right? Like, you know who he is. Like,
Yeah, he's the guy from Space Jam, right?
Right, exactly. But I mean, like, in addition to that, like he is, like, they show you why he was called one of the greatest players on the planet. Like, at one time he was the highest paid athlete in the world. So like they go to great lengths to show you why that is, and they go to great lengths to show you why players like Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman look up to him and respect him so much. And then they kind of like go to great lengths to show you how I guess corporate management went to great lengths to destroy this team, this great team, and it's absolutely shocking. So honestly, I highly recommend it. If you haven't started watching it, start watching it now. The first 2 episodes aired in April. We're up to 6 now, for a full 10 episode run. So yeah, check it out.
I haven't seen the show. I definitely want to see it. I have read an article though. I don't know if you saw it. Did you see it? The criticism it got from Ken Burns.
No, I didn't.
So Ken Burns, for those who don't know, is like iconic documentary filmmaker. So much that the effect when you zoom in on an image was named after him. It's called the Ken Burns effect. Like, that's how he pretty much made documentaries what they are today. He has an ethical issue with the documentary, which I think is interesting. I don't think it's that bad, but it is interesting. Apparently, the documentary is made by some company that's owned by Michael Jordan or has some stake in it. And Ken Burns is like, a documentary filmmaker should be disconnected from the source. So he thinks having that bias he feels is, I think the word is unethical. It doesn't mean it's a bad show.
Right.
I'd
say
I agree with that biased.
Sentiment.
I think the bias, yeah. But I think you could say the same thing about, like, I look at Tiger King and I think, like, that show, we talked about this on the podcast, that show does not emphasize the animal abuse enough. It focuses on the people probably way too much rather than, like, the way the animals were treated, which is a bit sad. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's an interesting thing to point out.
Here's my, like, kind of 2 cents. Whenever I watch something, whether it be a fictional film or it be a documentary, I know that there's one kind of like head honcho behind this, like, and no matter how much people say that they're, going into a subject objectively, that's not true. Like, especially in film, you've got you're going to have this person's kind of like point of view on things. Like, they're going to leave things out. So I think the onus is on the audience just as much as it is on the filmmaker to kind of like believe that, hey, what you're saying might not be the full story, because they obviously can't cram this story into 60 minutes. So
totally. And something I just wanted to say now, it's like a thing for everybody. And I don't want to make out like this documentary is bad or anything. It sounds like it's amazing. I've heard so much good things about it. But any movie based on a true story, even news you see on the TV, current affairs programs, especially in documentaries, there's always a bias. And often, like, there's very few people looking for the truth because they're actually looking to entertain. And entertainment always comes down to good guys versus bad guys. And in real life, it's not like the movies. You can decide who you want to be the good guy and who you want to be a bad guy, So whenever you're taking something that's based on truth, do some extra research. It's really fun, I think, to like learn more about it and do your own research. But also, it's a good way to understand like what bias is in the media as well. And I think that applies to everything: news, current affairs,
I agree.
documentaries. Yeah. But let's move on real quick. I just want to mention, for those who don't know, Rick and Morty is back. Netflix is, I know in Australia, Netflix is bringing it out episode by episode. First episode back. Great episode. Nice twist on the interdimensional cable type episode. This is a really cool concept. So Rick and Morty on a train, which is a literal metaphorical story device. Spoilers, by the way. But I just want to talk about how I think it's such a great idea for an episode where Rick and Morty know they are in a physical manifestation of a story, which is a device where everyone on the train has an experience with Rick and Morty. Everyone you talk to will come up with their own story about it, and they've got to try and find a way out. If you break a window, everything outside the window is not canon and will create continuity errors. And that affects the episode. And then the shape of the train, they show on a map, is like a circle, which is a reference to Dan Harmon's Story Circle, which is, he's very public about this, the way he writes episodes, which is his version on the hero's journey. And it's such a clever episode, and it's a great reminder to why I love that show. It still has its dumb fart jokes in there as well, and like random commentary. Like there's a line where he's like, "Shut up, Morty! You're a teenager. You watch videos of YouTubers reacting to YouTube." And I love those type of jokes that show does. And yeah, I'm so happy Rick and Morty's come back during this time. But the final TV thing we want to talk about, probably the biggest one, is, oh man, how good. We saw the season finale. How good has Better Call Saul been this season, man?
Oh, dude. Yeah, this this show, I've been kind of a bit on and off, as it's been airing. Like, obviously I'm liking it, but like every time like they release a new season, I'm just like, fuck, I actually forgot what happened last season. So, I've always been like hesitant to jump back into it. And then, I was like to my dad, I was like, all right, you know what? You and I have seen Breaking Bad together. Let's sit down. Let's watch Better Call Saul from start to finish. So I held off on season 5 and I just watched it straight from season 1 to 5. It is now one of my favorite shows of all time. I'm watching Breaking Bad currently again, and there are scenes, there are sequences and actual moments in Saul that I'm like, dude, like, they're like, Breaking Bad can't reach this height. Like, it seems like I'm watching Vince Gilligan's kind of like writing, just starting to get like just getting better and better. Like it seems like he's just starting to, he's just evolving. Like this show, dude. Like we're gonna stick specifically to season 5 of Better Call Saul because I do want to dedicate a special feature episode. When we finish season 6, which is the final season of Saul, which comes out next year. This season was absolutely fantastic, man. Like spoilers beware, by the way, guys. The character of Lalo Salamanca. Do you want to start with him?
He's the new villain sort of character, right?
Yeah, so Lalo Salamanca's the kind of like, he's the kind of enforcer for the Salamanca family. He's the nephew of Hector Salamanca. He's the cousin of Tuco. Very charismatic, very likable in first glance.
You know who he reminds me of a little bit? Negan from The Walking Dead, except in a much better show. Much better show, though. Yeah. Much better show.
But I mean, like, he also doesn't hesitate to kill. Like, there's a scene over at Travel Wire where he just kills a guy. Like, just a civilian. And that kicks off a whole bunch of things. But yeah, man, like this season was absolutely great. Like, it's one of my favorite episodes of all time, even in Breaking Bad, is the third last episode, I believe, where Mike and Saul are kind of like traveling through the desert and they're just trapped out there. And they can't find a way out. Like, they have to very painstakingly and carefully lure one of the guys who are hunting them out, and like Mike takes a shot with a sniper and just lo and behold absolutely destroys the car, their only escape.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I love one of the things that I love, I don't know where Jimmy is going to have to become Saul, the Saul as we know it in Breaking Bad, much more in season 6, because the way that season 5 ends, he's kind of reverted back to his innocent self. Like, he's seen the effect and damage that is done on Kim. He's kind of like corrupted her, and he's just like hesitant in that last scene in the hotel, that it's just like, oh wow, we are not edging towards Saul as much as we think we are. Like, he's still very much Jimmy. He's still very much the sympathetic, softie. And then like, once he sees Kim, like, Kim's like, okay, you know what, let's fuck up Howard's life, like who cares, let's go after him. That's when he's like, what, really? Like, I'm so excited for season 6, dude. I'm so excited to see how Jimmy becomes Jimmy. Sorry,
Well,
Jimmy becomes Saul.
Well, I don't know. I could argue, you could make an argument that like, if this show got cancelled a few seasons ago, and thank God it did not get cancelled because it's fucking incredible. He kind of sort of became Saul a while ago. Just we're seeing different degrees of Saul, and we're seeing more layers to him. So and what's really
he called himself
is,
Saul, but I think he only called himself Saul in name. Like I don't think that he actually becomes Saul. Like he obviously changes his name. But he wants to do corrupt shit, but I don't think he's that guy.
Well, we never really, when you think about in Breaking Bad, from my memory, we don't really see him with many other clients. So we don't really know the degree on how bad he gets. Because when he talks about Gus in Breaking Bad, he doesn't know Gus very well at the start, from the sounds of things. He's very like, you don't fuck with this guy, you got to do it. Like, he's almost hesitant to give it. I'm really excited to see how Saul starts interacting with Gus more, because we haven't really seen anything. I don't think they've met at all, have they?
I think they have. I can't remember.
Or if they have, it was very brief. They haven't really.
Is that at the top of your most anticipated thing on season 6? Because I have one to beat. I think I have one to beat you.
It's definitely not. My thing was something I thought we'd get an answer for this season is what happens to Kim.
What happens to Kim? Exactly.
So what's really interesting, and I think everybody thought this was going to happen with the second last episode this season, is like they really set it up so it looked like Kim was going to die. It was like Kim was, her arc seemed to have come to a close. She had found a new purpose in life. She got really happy. And on a lot of these great shows, when they do that, means that they've set you up to like rip the rug out from underneath you and kill off a character when they're at their happiest, And then we get that scene where like she's in their crosshairs, literally in the crosshairs, and she stands up to this most dangerous character we've met so far. And it could have either he could have killed her or Mike could have actually got her, but it didn't. And then we got a whole new episode where we see her like transform. Like she's now what we haven't realized this whole season is about how Kim breaks bad.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like I don't think death necessarily is the only final thing that can happen to a character. I think what could be more affecting and heartbreaking in this show particularly is just how much is for us to see just how much Jimmy has corrupted Kim. And
there's so many ways,
and what the consequence of that is.
Yeah, and there's so many ways it could go. Does Jimmy have to face her off in court? Does Jimmy kill her? I don't
think she dies. I don't think it's death. It's not. I don't think it's death at all.
It may not be. But whatever it is, something traumatic's going to happen. Like, look, there's nothing to say that Saul in Breaking Bad is married to Kim and they're living happily. There's nothing to say that they're not. We never really see much of his personal life. But for her to just be ignored in Breaking Bad, it makes you feel like something's got to be happening, And the other thing is we don't know what happens after Breaking Bad in all these black and white scenes, How does that end? I'm hoping we get one full episode like that as well. I want to see, does he go back to Kim?
Oh, totally.
Does something else happen? What happens in that world, And I feel, and what's really interesting about, and why I love Better Call Saul, which I've never missed. I've always seen every episode. The second comes out. It's been one of my most anticipated shows. I always listen to the Insider podcast. For those who don't know, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul have a podcast called the Better Call Saul Insider podcast, where every episode they break it down with the creators and the crew and the staff, and they talk about it. And it's really interesting sometimes, but they don't give a fucking enough away. And I want to just be like, what is happening? Like what I love about it is the way they write stories is so different to most other shows we watch. Most shows you can tell they have an end and they reverse engineer it the way back. And it's very Hollywood. They follow a formula and a structure. Better Call Saul doesn't do that though. And neither does Breaking Bad. They write themselves into a corner. It feels very Tarantino-esque in the way they can let a scene go on for as long as they want and do whatever. It's such a great show, man. Such a great show.
It's fantastic. The other thing that I'm really keen to figure out is what happens to Nacho.
Right. Yes. Because Nacho isn't in that. For all we know, he could go to jail. So could Kim. But I feel like Nacho's going to die. And I feel like Tuco's got to come back in some capacity. I want to see him at least back for one more episode.
Well, here's the thing, though, right? So, like me, like it's actually so great rewatching Breaking Bad so soon after Better Call Saul because there's just so many little things that in there that's just connected. Like, for example, do you remember in I think season 2, Kim and Jimmy are at a bar and they like find the guy with the Bluetooth headset, the earphone, and he's just kind of like an investment banker.
Oh yeah.
He's also in Breaking Bad. Like Walt actually blows up his car. It's really like in the same actor as well. So like it's kind of like crazy that like how far Gilligan and company have just kind of like thought about this. But yeah, like definitely. What were we just talking about?
You were just talking about how's the
Tuco.
Oh, you mean Nacho and Tuco?
Yeah, I was about to talk about Tuco. So at the end of this season, I think it's Lalo who mentions that Tuco is out in 11 months. And when we hear about Tuco at the start of Breaking Bad, he's been out of prison for 1 year. So I don't really know how this kind of like ties up. I don't know if it will because I can't see the season 6 having a 2-year gap.
I don't know.
It's interesting to think about, but like, yeah,
for those who dropped off after Breaking Bad, what the fuck are you doing? Watch Better Call Saul. It is.
I know a lot of people who have. Honestly, I do, and like I was nearly one of them, but I'm just glad I picked it up again. It's a different show. Sorry, Matt.
It is. No, you're right. It is a different show, and I think what pulls people away so much is Breaking Bad had a lot more physical drama. It had a lot more stuff to do with gangsters and crime. Better Call Saul has elements of that at times, but it comes and goes. But what really should be keeping you there is the inner journey that these characters are having and the emotional like relationships they're having with each other.
Right.
And I think because sometimes there isn't a strong through line, you don't really know where it's going. In Breaking Bad, Walt has a mission. It's
right. It's what we talked about.
And build it. And in this, we don't really have an end goal, and which I think is what gets people falling off.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to overlook that and look deeper, the show honestly outshines Breaking Bad for the most part in many ways. I wouldn't say in everything, but in a lot of ways, it is a better show, I would say. Last
thing before we do move on, and I just want to mention it right here, I actually think this show has peaked already, and I think it was in season 3. Season 3 was my favorite season of this entire show, dude. Like just the back and forth with him and Chuck, and that season obviously ended up with Chuck dying. The whole battery that he couldn't see, just the way he outplayed him. I like that we get some backstory into Chuck and like how he used to be. The whole Chuck Jimmy element of this entire show is my favorite element, I think.
Really? Because Chuck got annoying to me sometimes. That Chuck has great moments. What I think about the show is like with Breaking Bad, it's very easy to find favorite seasons. In Better Call Saul, it's harder for me to do that, but it's very easy to find favorite moments or favorite episodes.
Well, here's the thing, man.
I feel like it's more it varies in quality more. I think this show.
Yeah, it does. And with the Chuck thing, I think the reason why it resonated with me so much is because, I don't love to admit it, but I see a lot of me in Chuck.
Okay.
I've got a younger brother, and Jimmy's very much like looking up to Chuck. He wants to be like Chuck, and I'm not saying that my brother is like Jimmy at all, but it's just like I can be nicer, like I can be nicer to my brother.
Well, that's powerful stuff, man. All right, well let's move on though, shall we?
Let's move on.
We've got 2 more things in the agenda. We've got a quick review and then a quick game. Then we're out of here. So, without further ado, here is my review for Mortal Kombat Legends Scorpion's Revenge.
Once a generation, the finest warriors must do battle to decide the fate of their realm. I, Shang Tsung, welcome you to Mortal Kombat.
If Shao Kahn wins this tournament, Earth as you know it will cease to exist.
Are we scraping the bottom of the barrel here?
It's a direct-to-video on-demand show. It is new. It just came out, I think, a couple of weeks ago. So technically it's relevant, but it's not great, which
so we are scraping the bottom.
Yeah. This is... I'm a big Mortal Kombat fan, but I don't understand why this exists. Okay, so the main thing is the pull is it's like, oh, it's a focused story about a character, the most popular character from the game, Scorpion. But the movie isn't really about him. It's like there's like a few scenes in the beginning and then towards the end, and like I think one in the middle where they kind of like have him as a through line. But after like the first few scenes, they just go back into the same old story we saw told in the Mortal Kombat 90s movie, in the Mortal Kombat 90s animated movie as well, in the Mortal Kombat Legacy web series, in Mortal Kombat 9, the reboot game. We've seen this story told a bunch of times. It's Raiden, he gets a couple of fighters, they go to Mortal Kombat to fight an island, they fight, they kill Shang Tsung, and it's the same shit, except Scorpion has slightly more screen time. He's like an anti-hero now instead of a bad guy. And so this film could have been an opportunity to give us something more or something deeper, but instead they just sort of retreaded the barrel. It's the same feeling as watching Amazing Spider-Man after watching Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. It's basically the same story, they just changed some characters around. So, from a plot perspective, don't really like it. I also don't like the voice actor of Scorpion. It's the guy from the games, but he's just too clean. It's not real enough. The only voice actor I really stood out to me that I really liked was Joel McHale as Johnny Cage. That's because I'm a Joel McHale fan, and he suits that character. But everyone else, I don't like the way they wrote Sonya. She's it's very typical.
When did you start speaking Latin, dude? Like, none of this is making sense to me at all. As someone who is not into Mortal Kombat at all.
Well, I won't be much longer, I promise. But yeah, like, this character, Sonya, she's written so badly. It's very much like, I'm a girl, and so therefore guys don't take me seriously, so I have to be extra mean and swear extra a lot. She's actually voice acted by the girl who plays Deborah in Dexter, which kind of makes a lot of sense. Why she's like, fuck every 3 seconds.
Jennifer Carpenter, yeah.
Yeah, but this woman was also voiced in the most recent Mortal Kombat game by, what's her name? The UFC fighter who won a lot, Ronda Rousey. So very, very different approach. And the big selling point for this animated film is it's R-rated and there's lots of gore and there's lots of violence. But it's like stiff animation. It's by the same people who do like the Warner Brothers animation studio who do a lot of Justice League films, where it's like it's okay. It's very it's like American anime sort of combo. But we've seen better Mortal Kombat violence in the games because it's 3D with better graphics. So we're getting a story that we've kind of seen done before, and in some cases done better, some not so much. And we're seeing it with less good animation and violence than the games have. So at the end of the day, I'm like, what does this even have to offer? It has some cool moments, and just the way it's written too, it's like they wrote it knowing it was like a cartoon. I was hoping they'd treat the characters with more like groundedness and just give us proper character moments and develop them out like in 3-dimensional. And they're not. And if you watch it not knowing anything about Mortal Kombat, it's going to seem like a bunch of silly bullshit because they don't explain anything. Like, why can this guy shoot a fireball? They don't explain it. Like, that sort of stuff. So unfortunately, while I can only recommend it for hardcore fans of Mortal Kombat, I'm giving it a simple, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. I hope the live action movie is a lot better. Anyways,
nice.
That's it for reviews today. Let's close this off with the MDF game. What is your favorite Jackie Chan performance?
What is your favorite Jackie Chan performance? This was a tough one.
Wait, should we explain why we chose this question?
Well, yeah, actually, go. You do the honors.
So the next feature presentation coming up is Rush Hour, which will be done by me and Zoheb. Yep, no Colin next week. Sorry, guys.
Colin decided to fuck off. No, I'm kidding. He's got some personal stuff on, but yeah, we've never had this combination before for a feature presentation, so really excited.
Yeah. But what is your favorite Jackie Chan performance, my friend?
We have to guess. Don't forget.
Oh, okay. Do you want to guess mine, or should I guess yours?
I'll guess yours.
Okay,
I'm gonna guess Rush Hour.
Nope.
Ooh. Okay, go hit me. What is it?
Police Story.
Ooh, nice. You know what? I've never seen Police Story.
I don't blame you. It was before he got big in America. But it's got his most dangerous stunt he's ever done, which is the one where he goes down the pole with all the lights and he actually got electrocuted. He almost died doing it. It's got also an amazing action scene with a bus. He was very young at the time. He did dub his own voice over it, but it was done in Chinese. But I would say as a whole, the Police Story franchise, because what I think is really underrated, Police Story 2 is really great. It has an amazing fight scene in a park. And a lot of people don't realize this, but the Super Cult 1 and 2 are part of the franchise. And also, I think might have been the first Jackie Chan film I saw. And shot in Sydney, Jackie Chan's First Strike is technically Police Story 4. That has an amazing fight scene with a ladder, where he uses a ladder as like a weapon.
Okay, I got a question for you. I have seen a Police Story, but I can't remember what it was. I remember it being really, really good. I just remember them running on top of like something, like a structure. It wasn't the opera house or anything. It was like, I don't know, there was a helicopter chasing him.
Well, it's funny. Was it recently? Was it recent?
It wasn't recent.
Okay, because recently he did film a movie here, which was where he did fight on top of the opera house.
Yeah, that's why I said that wasn't it.
And that apparently is considered a spin-off of Police Story, but it's not. I
actually think it was New Police Story.
Oh, I haven't seen that one. It's one of the reboots, yeah, because it actually got rebooted twice.
Hold on,
with Jackie Chan as the lead.
Let me read this. Chan portrays a disgraced detective named Chan Kwok Wing, who accidentally leads his team into a trap from which he is the only survivor. Drowning his guilt and bruise, he is eventually assigned a new, younger partner who turns out to have his own secrets. However, they must work together if they were to stop the gang who killed Chan's team a year earlier. Yeah, that sounds really, really, really
generic Police Story.
No, that sounds familiar, dude. Like, that actually sounds familiar. I actually think that was the one. Yeah,
maybe. That's great. I'm gonna guess yours. Is it, well, you said performance and you were very coy with the way you said it. Is that because it's probably not a film you want to see his best acting, so therefore I'm going to guess that your pick is The Foreigner?
I haven't seen The Foreigner, so no.
Fuck! Okay, because in that one, he's good. He fucking cries and everything. Okay, then I'm going to say your best.
What, you're having two bites of the apple?
I'm gonna give me two more chances. Is it
two more?
One of the,
he doesn't have.
Is it one of the Rush Hour films?
Yes.
Yeah, it's Rush Hour 2.
It is Rush Hour 2.
Woo! It's such a good movie. It's such a good movie.
Yeah. Look, I mean, and I'm going to be the first to admit it. I wish I have delved, like, throughout my life, I wish I've delved more into Jackie Chan's filmography. I haven't seen Drunken Master. I know. I really wish
I'll be honest. I haven't seen the whole thing. I've just seen the good fights on YouTube.
Yeah, me too. And, like, that's the one that always gets brought up when it's like, that's obviously the best Jackie Chan film. So yeah, and I heard The Foreigner was actually really, really great. So I've heard good things, just haven't seen it. The early 2000s stuff was kind of like my bread and butter when it comes to Jackie Chan. I guess we'll expand on this in the feature presentation, but you know, beyond Rush Hour 1 and Rush Hour 2, it was Around the World in 80 Days. It was The Medallion. It was The Tuxedo.
That's when he stopped being good. Like those are some of his worst films.
But as a kid, you don't know what's good and what's bad. You know.
I'm going to take you on a journey, man. We're going to do a couple Jackie Chans together. Have you seen Rumble in the Bronx? Have you seen that one? I
haven't seen Rumble in the Bronx.
Oh, that's a good one too.
Yeah. So, I mean, I chose Rush Hour 2 only because, like, you can tell that he's not, like, English is not his first language, but at the same time, he is hilarious. Dude, like,
he's
it's
so
especially in that movie, like, you know, when they're looking through the window and then he's like, it's like it's Snoopy.
Hey man, I love Snoopy too.
Well, yeah, and look, that's the reason why I said best Jackie Chan performance and not movie, because I think all this entire trilogy belongs to Carter. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm just gonna like, if you don't have Carter, then you don't have Rush Hour. I mean, you know. So.
Have you seen? We'll talk about this more in the feature presentation. But have you seen the Rush Hour reboot that was a TV show?
I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it, and I just stayed very far away.
That may be the right move to do.
Okay, yeah. All right. There we go.
Let's see what votes did we get from the after party, real quick.
Yeah, so if you're in the after party, you know that we post a poll with our MDF games, and this week was no different. So in honor of our next feature presentation episode, what is your favorite Jackie Chan performance? Right at the bottom, tied for 4th place, is Rumble in the Bronx, Police Story 1985, Around the World in 80 Days, and one that Alan Michael Pools added called Who Am I? I've never heard of that one.
Who Am I? Really slow start, but concludes with an amazing action scene against I think at the time it was like a famous kickboxer on a roof. And Jackie Chan released a VHS tape I remember I watched over and over again called My Stunts, which sort of showed you the behind the scenes of a lot of stuff. And a big part of it was that final fight scene. And during that scene, Jackie got so mad because this guy, he kept like, he was used to fighting real. Like he wasn't used to like fake fighting. And so he would actually throw attacks, and like he wasn't used to the whole situation. And that's actually a big part of Jackie's career and why he's had so much trouble in Hollywood is in like the 2000s when martial arts was new to Hollywood, is because a lot of people weren't used to that style. And like Who Am I was a great example of that. Great film, Who Am I? I wouldn't say one of his best, but I really loved that as a kid.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
I really don't like Around the World in 80 Days.
Yeah, look, a lot of people don't. I loved it as a kid. I guarantee if I watched it now, I'd hate it. But I mean, I remember a very heinous Arnold Schwarzenegger cameo.
Well, that's the one thing. Like, I was excited knowing they were both in the same film. And then when I saw it was just that scene, I was like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, like, and I think that was the year that he announced his retirement from acting, Arnold Schwarzenegger, because that's when he became the governor.
I think it was his last film.
I think Terminator 3 was, but I think it was the same year, 2004.
Okay. So yeah, fourth place, Who Am I? Around the World in 8 Days, Rumble in the Bronx Police Story. What was next?
Third place, Drunken Master, very popular pick. And second place was actually surprising to me, but again, I'd heard good things about it, called The Foreigner. Have you seen this?
Yeah. The Foreigner, not a lot of action in this one, to be honest. And I remember it was like his most recent Hollywood one. And he kept doing all the talk shows and kept just saying, look, I'm getting older. I want to prove to people I can act and I'm not just fighting. And while he does do some cool fights in this, like especially the first act, it's so many scenes where he's just crying and going through a lot of stuff. And it's great. It's got like this real political thriller element to it. You might actually enjoy this one, but it does feel like a lower budget type film.
Okay.
You know what? It's and he's also it's interesting. He plays more like an anti-hero. Like he's kind of the bad guy, kind of not, which is very unique role for Jackie. It doesn't feel like a Jackie Chan film.
Well, I mean, like I honestly applaud an actor for doing that. You know, after being known for like something so specific like martial arts and, you know, doing your own stunts, like him branching out and wanting to do a movie that requires actual acting, love that.
Yeah.
And in number one place, and I shouldn't have done this in hindsight. I wish I had broken them up. But it's the Rush Hour trilogy. I mean, like what else could it be, right?
Yeah. It's his most popular franchise. Jackie seems to have a love-hate relationship with it, which again we'll talk about in the future. But you know, if you don't say you like Rush Hour 1 or 2, you're fucking lying. Those are amazing films.
They're totally amazing. Yeah, you know what? We'll get into it. I'll leave that for the episode because
we've left so many teasers. Many teasers.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyways, I think that concludes today's episode, right? Or are there any comments you want to read out in particular?
Not really. I mean, like everyone chimed in, so I really, really appreciate everyone. There was a lot of gifts.
Oh, there was a gift that I know caught you off surprised. I think it's hilarious to mention. I posted one as Jackie Chan as Chun-Li.
Right.
And you're like, what? And yeah, for those who don't know, if you want to see what I consider to be one of his low points, when Street Fighter 2 is really popular, there's a scene in, I think it's City Hunter. It's a film I haven't seen, but I have seen this scene where him and the bad guy crash into a Street Fighter 2 arcade cabinet and they both start turning into Street Fighter 2 characters for some reason. And Jackie Chan full cross-dresses as Chun-Li, and it is not aged well at all. It is, yeah.
That's rough. That's rough.
Yeah. Anyways, that's it for us today at Midnight Double Feature. Zoheb, where can they find us if they want to hear more?
Guys, you can find us everywhere. We are on Facebook. We have our main page, Midnight Double Feature, and then we have our community group, which is called The After Party. That's 3 words, The After Party. Please join that if you're not part of it already. We have our Instagram page, which is at Midnight Double Feature. We have our Twitter page or group or whatever you want to call it, the tweets, whatever. It's called at MDF Pod. You can always send us an email, which is at Midnight Double Feature, if you have any questions or queries or suggestions on what movies to cover or what, you know, news topics that you want us to talk about. And we would love it if you could please rate and review us on iTunes. Give us 5 stars, give us 1 star, but tell us why you gave us the star that you did. And yeah, you can go ahead and do that whenever. And yeah, honestly, tune in to the Rush Hour episode because that should be awesome.
120%. That's it for us today. A Midnight Double Feature. We'll see you at the next one. Laters.